Many of us are scattered throughout the world. And with this platform, we come together. We recognize all souls that are sitting here and we raise all names to the higher power as we channel in. Let's imagine that we are holding hands. Let's reach out to the next person that is sitting in this virtual room. Hold their hand, feel it. Feel the temperature of their body. Feel the person that you hold on your right, and also feel the person that you hold on your left. As we extend the circle of friendship, of souls, coming from different ends of the world, we are convinced that our agenda is one that we need to follow through on. And we're happy that you're able to join us today. And we're blessed that you've availed yourself and you've respected this time. That said, I want you to take in a deep breath in as you take your right hand and you extend it to your heart and place it just over your heart. Just placing it there, allowing yourself to feel your own heart rate. Let's take a moment of silence and reflect. Over to you, Denise. Thank you. Bringing your hands down to the palm, to your lap. Opening your eyes gently. Taking a deep breath in. As we settle into this space, into this community that we're opening up to everybody that we've invited into this space. Our guest speaker today is Azah Mphago. He's a very special friend of mine, but also a very important activist in our country, a musician who continues to contribute to the body of work that carries our history in its own sound, because it is passed on by our ancestors and he continues to deliver it even today. We've invited him to share his perspective about June 16 and how we should be relating it as the Africans of today, wherever we are, and as well as the different generations that need to pass on what we know to the younger ones that come after us. So with that, I just want to say, please welcome Azah as we hear him speak about June 16.
Yeah, greetings, my people who are scattered everywhere else in the world and those that are in the motherland. It is an honor at any given time to speak to the hearts of the black-bodied masses with an understanding of the quest or the desire to rise in the consciousness and to rise in the awareness of our spiritual cosmology and our history and our heritage. I think we are a beautiful people. If there's something that should constantly be emphasized, is that we are a people that are majestic and humble, and the wealth has tried so much to shift us from that core understanding, because they have always known and understood that once we are able to grasp fully what it means to be African, to be of African descent, no matter where in the world we are born, we will never be the same. And therefore, the world around us will never be the same. Hence, there has been all sorts of interruption in our thinking, in our worldview, and in our self perception to disrupt and dismantle that Black consciousness quest. I am grateful to Sister Tumi for this moment, and I want to, before I even begin to unpack, a couple of issues, just to reflect on a few of the notes that I have made thus far in the progress of our conversation, beginning with the South African national anthem. And because I come from a background of the arts and art protest, and as a Pan-Africanist, my observation will always gravitate towards the nuances of what it means in the things that we utter through our words, in the things that we sing, the things that are there in our behavioral psyche, the struggle that was displayed of the protest of 76, apart from many things, I mean, was distilled into the struggle for, linguistic liberation, to say people should have a freedom to choose the language with which they want to conduct their academic intake and so forth. However, there are other underpinning, underlying issues, that should be contextualized, and that is the contestation of the absolute freedom of African people in the land of their birth, the freedom to vote, or rather the right to vote, was also one of the, the pillars of that particular protest. And funny enough, in the new dispensation, looking at the sonic representation of that dispensation that is culminated into the national anthem, how it is packaged, the first verse, it's in Sotho. It says, Morena boloka setjhaba sa geso, o fedise dintwa le matshwenyeho. So it says, God save our nation, and bring to end all the fights and all the misery. And then there is a part, that looks at the God figure, as a beacon of hope, to say, God, help us, help us, help us, we need help, whatever. But the second part, that is in Afrikaans and in English, really, alludes to the land, and it's funny that how we have been, through missionary invasion, have been made to hold on to the religious alignment that has shifted us from any understanding of the land, really, and we are kept till today, as the most religious people, but as the people that are dispossessed, because at any point in time in our religious belief, there's no understanding or interrogation of land. And without land, it means that there is a serious fragmentation in terms of our alignment to our ancestry, and these are very pivotal issues. They are quite paramount to our struggle. Therefore, my plea and my hope is that as young people begin to assimilate into this struggle, that now today it includes technology and so forth, the land issue is taken into task. Now, without any further ado into these issues, I mean, I was just emotional, and therefore I was, compelled to even touch this. But that's not even the mandate that I was given, through the invitation. I think the issues that I want to touch has got to do with a lot of our psychic displacement, because as African people, I mean, today we hear of notions and assertions of Black Lives Matter, and how that Black Lives, the value of the Black lives, whether here or abroad, from a Pan-Africanist point of view, really reflects a lot on, it's really premised on the spiritual anchor, because we can never celebrate our identity outside of a spiritual premise. To say spiritually, who are we, and the contention also around identity is really to sort of like relegate us into the nothingness, because within this nothingness, we are not able to, I mean, that is why even if in the academia, if you go to school and you are in a class and you are listening to a lecture, you are listening to a teacher, the history that you are taught, the subjects that you are taught, if they do not, if they do not crystallize the value of who you are as an African person or a person of African descent, really, you will be sold all sorts of things that sort of like devalue the impact of who you are. And this has been part of our struggle. So without dwelling much into that, I would like us to do a certain exercise, really, with what has been shared thus far, from the beginning of all the speakers and the performers. I would like us to do an exercise, and this exercise is really the exercise of the mind, because as Stephen Bantu Biko once said, that the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So our quest is to really try and tap into the mind and free it, and conscientize it and induct it with all sorts of awareness tools and mechanisms so that it can be liberated, because we understand that once the mind is free, then every other aspect of our being will be free, will follow suit. So I would like you to take this moment for a few seconds and just close your eyes. And then I will say a word. And from the word that I say, whoever feels that the word resonates with them and also propels other imagination can just hop in no particular order, really. So for an example, if I say hope, somebody can say, hope for me resembles, a belief in the unity of our people, and without hope, there can't be any struggle or any pursuit for anything, because hope is the center. So with those, I mean, you are able to to unearth other words that organically come into mind. Yes. So let's take that deep breath in and out. In and out. The first word is freedom. Freedom. Anyone can jump in to say, what does freedom elicit for you?
Azah, I would actually like to jump in. It's Vinay Raja from Johannesburg. For me, it immediately elicits the lyrics of Bob Marley and the lines of "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, for none but ourselves can free our minds." And I agree, because I work a lot with youth in South Africa. And unless we take the shackles of mental freedom away, we will never begin to own the land. We will never begin to own the spaces that rightfully belong to us. I have many people tell me that I have Indian heritage, and I've always self-identified as Black. I've always self-identified as African. And part of that freedom comes from emancipating the mind.
Thank you very much. There was a message that was, I couldn't read the name. Somebody was saying, yes, they relate. Freedom begins in the mind. Yes, Urenelo, are you ready to jump in? I see you there.
Freedom. Freedom. Okay. I think freedom is something that I'm not completely sure, but I do agree it is something from the mind. But I think freedom is more like, I don't know how to explain it, because it just hadn't grappled my mind the way it was supposed to, because so many people see freedom in a different way. People see it, some people actually feel how freedom feels like. So I don't really think there's a specific way of describing freedom. I just think freedom is what you call it, is what you want it to be, is what you feel it. That's what I think freedom is.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Excellent.
Yeah.
If I could jump in for a moment, we also had a question, Azah, because I do want to continue our dialogue. We have a question from Shamaya. She asked, where were you on the 16th of June in 1976? Were you also protesting?
No, no, I was not yet born at the time, but the struggle continued until the 80s, and I mean, it's not, I mean, the 76 was really like, the epic moment of it, more like a manifestation of it. It had, this struggle had begun way before, 76, and it was busy building up, So in 76, you have really a formation of young people who were, school going at the time, who found an opportune moment, to really disrupt and dismantle everything. But at the time, you'd realize that there were other unrests, and people were going to exile to train and to get all sorts of, training in terms of combat and so forth. But I myself, in the 80s, I had been involved in a lot of unrest and protests. I was a stone thrower of note, and the tear gas, death, people going missing, was the daily, part of my growing up. I have seen people being necklaced. I have been involved with all sorts of bombing of what used to be called targets. Then those were the government vehicles and so forth. So in my own way, at the advent to the democracy, I was also involved in the sort of like the fading of this protest. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Definitely. Thank you for that. We definitely appreciate your words, man. This is it's very eye-opening, and I have to acknowledge the transition that's happening here in the United States as well, and also with it being Juneteenth weekend. Yesterday we celebrated Juneteenth on June the 19th, and we have a speaker that's going to talk a little bit more about it. But what made me think of it is when you talked about the word freedom, and you talked about how that moment in '76 was really like the springboard. As the movement was already going, that kind of helped take it to another level. I mean, I feel like we're experiencing something similar right now. And I would actually like to share a piece. I have a song called Pressure that really speaks to a lot of the pressures that we feel as people of African descent all over the diaspora, and particularly here in the United States. But one of the cool things about this song is written from the perspective also in science, where, there's pressure, but that same pressure that pushes us down can be used to lift us up. And what I mean by that is when planes fly in the air, their wings are shaped a certain way so that the air lifts up the plane without it having to use too much energy. So I think we're in a position now where we can actually use this momentum to our benefit. Same pressure that can lift the plane, same pressure that cause pain. Static or dynamic, we all feel it on this planet. It's the force over that area. We breaking down these barriers like we riding around in a bulldozer. We too heavy, who gonna hold us? Need strip, but I'm still rollers. Try presses, we still rolling. Same pressure that bust pipes could move a tank if it's used right. Might as well say the same Buddha fall straight through without snowshoes. More area, less pressure. Translation, we big stepping. Who ready? It's all eyes on. We gon' be the motivation that's gon' move these streets. Let's go. It's all eyes on me. We gon' be the motivation that's gon' hey, so we can get free from that pressure. Steam the block with that pressure. OGs teaching about. Gotta steam the block and never mind the ops, cause they trying to give you that. Moving high to low, it's that dynamic flow about. Whether day or night, we lifting off, we taking flight with that pressure. It's our time. Got me so high above the ground. I feel like I can't breathe, I just gotta be free. Hey. I just gotta be free. Sing. I just gotta be free. Yeah. I just gotta be free. You wanna do it like this? Same pressure make the kettle sing. It's the same hot bringing on the block. From here to the islands, years of pressure, what turns a lump of coal into a diamond. The higher you go, it gets way harder to breathe. Whether you climbing a mountain or in the streets, this motivation keep you on your feet. So your attitude like your altitude, they both determine where you're going to be. They try to drag you back, try to hold you down like gravity. You can still lift yourself off the ground. Use that pressure, get in the clouds. Use your wings, gotta keep the faith when the only option is victory. We need a victory. Hey. 1, 2, 3, some lies on me. We gon' be the motivation that's gonna move these streets. Far as I can see, it's all. Everybody say this with me. We're gonna say one word. Say pressure. Get free from that pressure. Steam the block with that. OGs teaching about. Gotta steam the block and never mind the ops, cause they trying to give you that. Moving high to low, it's that never flow about. So today tonight, we lifting off you. We taking flight. We got pressure. It's our time. Hey, got me so high up off the ground. I feel like I can't breathe. I just gotta be free. Yeah, I just gotta be free. Thank you, thank you. Thank y'all for letting me share that piece. Again, that was called Pressure. That one was called Pressure.
That was beautiful. That was off the hook.
Thank you, Tumi. Thank you. I appreciate that.